Hey there, it's Lenny McGill with the GlockStore Performance and Custom Shop right here in the amazing Nashville studios today, and I got something really exciting to show you. It is our new GS Fast Trigger. It's cool. I mean, we've really gone over the top here, and I think you're really going to like it. We're going to show you everything you get, but we're also going to show you the complete installation and kind of a disassembly of the gun and installation of a trigger. So it's going to apply to just about anything that you're doing with your trigger. So stay tuned. Here it comes. Now, let's talk about what you get. First of all, the GS Fast Trigger shoe is really unique. It's available in 5 different colors. This happens to be the shamrock green. I'm going to show it to you because you can see on the front face of the trigger, we've got some nice checkering that is not only attractive, but also gives you some texture on which to rest your finger. It's available in green. Like I said, this is our shamrock green. We've also got an OD green or a forest green, a darker green. That's kind of neat. And we have an FDE. And we have a red with a black safety. All the safeties are black, but there's a red FDE, OD green, shamrock green, and of course, black on black, which is probably one of the most popular colors, besides red on black. So when you get the trigger, when you look at the trigger, there's 2 options. We have a carry or a combat option, and we have a competition option. Basically, the base of the trigger comes to you like this, with the trigger housing, the bar that has been coated in NP3. Now, if you know anything about NP3, I'm a big believer in NP3 because it is a very unique finish that is self-lubricating and has the lowest coefficient of friction, even lower than our gold titanium nitrate coated bars. So we decided to use the NP3 because it is the best. A little bit more expensive, but certainly better. And we've got it on these bars with our fast trigger. Okay, so that's one of the neat features we have. The other feature that comes with both kits is that the trigger housing has a kind of a modified or improved trigger stop mechanism. So it's got a built-in trigger stop. Now, when you get it, it's kind of preset. But if you get in here really close, you're going to see that there's a set screw right here, okay, there in the back. And what that set screw does, it stops the trigger bar from coming back too far. However, you have to be careful that you don't overextend it because it may not come back far enough. Like I said, we have a preset from our factory to you, and it should be good to go. But if you have experience any trouble, basically you get the included Allen wrench, and you stick it back into the hole in the back of the trigger housing. And when you stick it into the hole, it'll seat itself into the set screw, and you turn it to the left out to back it off, or to the right to extend it. And again, the concept is that set screw sticks out and prevents the trigger bar from over traveling too far. Now, you may ask yourself, well, what's that all about? Well, as you shoot and you pull the trigger, it engages and it drops the striker, right? And then it still has a little bit more play, and then it goes back out. Well, that little bit more play gets eaten up by that set screw, and that allows you to manipulate the trigger faster, so you can shoot faster. So that's what the trigger stop is all about. The other feature that we want to talk about for these 2 different styles is that you get different things with the carry version versus the competition version. So let's talk about the carry version first. So what you're going to get with the carry version is you're going to get a 4.5-pound striker spring that I'm going to show you how to install, okay? You get a steel, okay, not plastic, a steel trigger housing pin. Trigger housing pin is the one in the back here. Now, it comes from the factory with a plastic pin, and it works, right? Okay, it does. But we have noticed, and people who shoot a lot notice, that over the course of time, they will bend a little bit. Now, when you think about that, you think, well, how does that really affect everything? Well, it does affect the trigger movement, because if that pin is bending, there's a little bit of movement back and forth. So we include a stainless steel pin that's been anodized in black or black oxide so that it is black, but it basically is not going to bend. So we want to eliminate as much of that as possible. And of course, with both the kits, you're going to get some gun butter, a little sample gun butter, because I'm going to show you how to use that to make these triggers a little bit more smooth. And one other thing on the carry version is that you also get a factory minus connector, okay? And that's already installed in the trigger housing. Like I said, it comes to you basically installed, ready to go. Now, on the competition version, all those same things, except the connector is now a 3.5-pound connector versus the minus connector, which is basically a 5 or 4.5-pound connector. Like I said, you get the gun butter, you get the steel trigger housing pin, but you also get the competition firing pin safety plunger. I'll show you how to install that. The other thing you get is the competition trigger return spring. Now that return spring actually pushes the trigger back out, which allows you to get, again, faster resets. And the faster the trigger resets, the faster you can actually pull it. I'll show you how to install that in a little bit too. Now, on the competition version, you get two different springs. You get the 4.5-pound spring, and you get a 4-pound spring. So that's kind of what comes with all this stuff. And we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna show you how to install it in just a second. But that's the kits. So you have two different options: carry option, competition option. So here's a Glock 19 Gen 5. I want to bring your attention to our seat cut that we have done on this Glock 19 Gen 5. And of course, you know that Glock doesn't do a seat cut, but we do. So if you've got a Glock you want to do a compensated Glock for, this is exactly how we do it here in our machine shop. Looks just like the factory, works just like the factory, helps reduce recoil and muzzle flip. It's really a great item. The gun is unloaded, of course. No magazines, no ammo in the room, nothing close. The other gun that this will apply to, of course, this installation process applies to all of the Gen 5 guns. That's for Gen 5 only at this time. We've got a Gen 3 coming, but not available quite yet. So the installation process I'm about to show you applies to the Gen 5, 19, 17, 26, the 22, 23, 34, all the Gen 5, 9mm and 40 caliber guns. The disassembly, reassembly process is basically the same for basically all the Gen 5 guns. The 43X also has our C-cut on it. This is unique. We sell guns just with a C-cut like this. The installation process also applies to the 43X because they all use the same basic trigger mechanism. All right. So that said, I'm going to use the Glock 19 as my demo model. It is empty, like I said. I'm going to go ahead and rack the slide and just try to figure out what the trigger weight is right now before we actually go into the installation. Now, this is our dead weight trigger weight. It's pretty cool because there's no springs. It's kind of hard to game this thing. On the bottom is a 3-pound weight. This is a 2-pound weight. These are halves. So I've got 5. And I've got a 1/2 pound right there, 2 1/4 pounds, all right? So, got to bring this up here. The factory Gen 5 guns are between 5 and 5.5 pounds. So it's got 5.5 right now. And a little wiggle, and there it is. So it's basically between 5.5 pounds. So it's just where I thought it would be. That's what Gen 5 Glock 9mm come to you as. With the installation of these parts, I believe we're going to be able to get ourselves down to 4.5 pounds. Pretty easy. Maybe even a little bit lighter. We'll see. All right. I'm going to use the black one that's already pre-assembled. I'm going to do the competition option, which has all the different springs. But this process really applies to the carry version as well because there's just more springs here. So you just wouldn't install those springs. So first things first, we're going to identify all of our parts. I know what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use the 4-pound striker, or 4.5-pound striker spring today. I think that's what I'll try. I've got all the pieces laid out in front of me, and I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this Glock 19 Gen 5. Now, first things first, we're going to take the slide off. We do that by taking our hand and wrapping it over top and just pulling it back, disengaging it from the slide lock, pulling it back about 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch or so. And as I do that, then I want to pull down on the slide lock on both sides. This is a factory gun, doesn't have our extended version in it, but you pull down, you hold it down, and you can kind of walk that slide right off. just like that. Because we're working with the frame and the striker as well, I'm going to work on both sides of this thing. So what I'm going to do is work on the upper first and work on the striker spring, because this is relatively easy. All right. So here is the 4.5 pound striker spring right here. I'm going to pull it out of the package. It is going to be installed around the striker. Now, if you have watched any of my videos before, you know that I've done this a lot, but I'm going to walk through it as slowly as possible. Going to remove the guide rod, boom, and remove the barrel, boom. Okay, just like that. So now we have basically a field strip Glock slide. You can clean it like this. You don't have to really do too much more. But to gain access to the striker spring, we need to get into the striker, and we need to remove the striker, the slide cover plate. And you do that by depressing the spacer sleeve, which is found just underneath the striker lug. So the spacer sleeve is kind of spring-loaded, and it captures the slide cover plate in place. So it's almost impossible to take it off unless you reduce that spring pressure. And the way you reduce the spring pressure is you take a punch or a ballpoint pen or even an Allen wrench, and you get underneath the striker. And if you can get in here really close, you'll see there's a piece of black plastic right there. That's that spacer sleeve I just talked about. It is spring-loaded. And that spring is pushing on the underside of that slide cover plate. So you can see that as I push down on that spring, I'm reducing that slide pressure, that spring pressure, and I'm going to go ahead now and just thumb the slide cover plate off. And as I thumb it off, I want to keep my thumb in place because there's some items in there that could spring out. And one of those items is the extractor depressor plunger. And it's right there. And that little piece right here sometimes flies away, and people call us and have to buy that and ship it to them. It's a $3.99 piece. And they have to ship it, and it's crazy because they want overnight shipping, which is nuts. All right, so I've taken the slide cover plate off, and now I'm going to go ahead and just lift the striker straight out, and it comes straight out as an assembly. And that is called your striker assembly. I don't have to do anything else here, okay? I can leave everything else in place, although I'm going to take the safety plunger out to install that safety plunger spring. I'm just going to work on the striker right now. So there's the striker assembly, and there's really, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, really, maybe 5 if you count those spring cups as 2. So what we need to do is remove the spring from the actual striker. And it's held in place by what they call our spring cups. All right? And it's pretty ingenious. When you really think about, how Gas and Glock, put this together, it's like, wow, everything's just amazing. And it is. So to remove the spring cups, I'm going to just pull down on the spring with my hands. And here come the spring cups. It's actually 2 pieces. 1, 2. Alrighty, and then here comes that spring. Okay, there you go. And so here's the spring, and here are the spring cups. And what's crazy, you have this $500 gun that will not operate if you don't have spring cups, which are, $2, for the set. So it's crazy, but it's amazing because it is so simple, but it works. Here's that spacer sleeve, by the way. Okay, so it basically just comes on and off. We can leave it right in place. And it goes around the lug, and it sits in the gun like so. Now, to put the new spring on, there's a little trick. I'm going to show it to you. You take the slide, and you put the spacer sleeve back into the hole, but upside down, right? And then you put the striker lug right there on the side. And now it captures the striker. So that means I can actually take the spring and put it on there and compress it without the spacer sleeve getting in the way. That's really kind of cool. Now here's the hard part. You've got to get your spring cups back onto that spring. All right? It's not hard, but it's not easy either. So the way I have done it is that I'll actually get one staged in my hand, okay, because I want to be ready for it, okay? So I'm going to be ready to put it on. But first I want to show you, here's how we just depress it all the way down. and you hold it down like that, and you expose the collar up there on that striker. Okay, once it's down, you actually grab the piece, right, and you just pop it on there, and just kind of let it sit. Okay, and then you grab the other side and you pop it on there too, and I did just like that. Well, I hope you saw that. Basically, the concept is I've got those two pieces, and I'm putting them together like so, underneath the collar that sits on this striker itself. And as I depress the spring, I put one on, I put the other one on the other side, and I kind of make sure they're lined up. There's only one other thing you really want to try to be aware of, is at the end of the spring, you want to make sure that it doesn't get caught in the seam of the two pieces coming together. So that's the only thing you have to be aware of. And I'm looking at it now, and it looks pretty darn good. So it looks like we are good to go. So that was it. I put the spring on, and that's as easy as it gets to install the spring, the new 4.5-pound spring versus the factory 5.5-pound spring. Okay, now that I've got that in there, I can set this off to the side, and we're going to go ahead and approach the next spring, which is going to be the little safety plunger spring. Now again, the safety plunger, if you think about what happens here, as you depress the trigger, let me just do this, as you depress the trigger, you are plunging that down, that being the safety plunger. So the trigger rolls over top of this piece right here. And as it rolls over top, it's depressing the spring that's on the underneath. So by reducing that spring weight, you reduce the trigger pull. It's really that simple. So it's a pretty simple little fix now. So I need to take out the entire extractor, depressor, plunger assembly. And this is it right here. Okay, so now I've taken out the EDP, or extractor, depressor, plunger assembly, and I'm about to remove the plunger, safety plunger. Now, when I do that, the extractor is going to fall out, because the extractor is captured by the safety plunger. And listen to this. The safety plunger is extracted by the plunger, or by the extractor. So they kind of go together and keep each other in place. See, the extractor is not going to fall out, the safety plunger is not going to fall out. But as soon as I depress this, the extractor is going to fall out. So I'll do it with my finger here. Watch this. Well, if I get it upside down, maybe it'll work. Just like that. Just like that. So there's the extractor, okay? And here comes the safety plunger, and I'm going to let it fall out now. And there's that little spring we're talking about. Boom. And we're going to replace that with a lighter power spring. This spring actually is kind of captured in there. It kind of just pops right out. And when you put it back in, it pops right in, kind of clicks in. This is the safety plunger. All right, here's the safety plunger spring, the reduced power safety plunger spring. And like I said, I already told you why it's reduced and how that actually affects everything, right? Okay, here comes that little spring. Now, it's tiny, so don't lose it and tell me you didn't get one, because people do that all the time. They say, oh, I don't know where that spring is. And we start putting it into a separate bag just because of that. All right, here it comes. I set it into the hole, just like so, right? And I come back now. I'm going to do all this at the same time. I'm going to stage my extractor, because they capture each other. And I'm going to go ahead and get my slide on top. Okay, so I'm going to do it this way. I'm not going to turn this upside down, because the spring's going to fall out. And I come up here like so. Okay, so we put it in. And before I do too much of anything, I just want to test that spring pressure. And it looks like it's working. That's exactly the action I'm looking for. If it gets bound up at all, if that spring gets kinked a little bit, you don't want to go forward. You want to just wait. And again, that's what I want to do now. Here's what is really magical, is that you depress this and pop the extractor into place. And it captures the spring and it captures the extractor, just like that. really still amazes me. I just tell you, when I look at that, I think, wow, that was pretty smart. Okay, so now what's really interesting is the extractor depressor plunger assembly, EDP, will go in with the steel first, okay? Remember the plastic is on the plastic. The steel of the rod intersects with the steel of the extractor. Okay, we've got the extractor depressor plunger assembly installed, and it's time now to install the striker assembly. And it basically just slips right in. The only thing you have to really be cognizant of is that the lug goes into the slot in the striker. You know, really no other way to put it in there. And it just goes straight in, and that's it. And you can always test that little spring pressure just by pushing it yourself. Now we're going to assemble the slide cover plate back onto the top. And the way I like to do this is to kind of stage that up top here, right? Put my thumb on the back of it, take the back of this punch and just push down on the spacer sleeve. And that'll get me halfway on. Okay, now it's halfway on. Now I take the smaller part of the punch and push down on the extractor depressor plunger and push up, and voila. That click is a good sound because the click means that the spacer sleeve clicked into place on the back of the slide cover plate. So we've accomplished the installation of the safety plunger spring as well as the 4.5 pound striker spring. Put it back together. It's ready to go. I can drop the barrel in. And I can drop the guide rod back in. This is actually ready to go now. So now the fun part is to install the trigger itself, as well as a couple of the other pieces. So the pieces we have to install are the competition return spring, the trigger return spring, as well as the steel trigger housing pin. All right, so they're pretty simple, but first we need to also install the entire trigger assembly. Remember, this is the competition version, comes with the 3.5 pound connector. Both of these come with the trigger stop and the trigger housing, okay? They both have the NP3 trigger bar and the new fast trigger shoe with the checkered front and everything else. It's really just a great package. So first thing we gotta do is take the trigger bar out, the factory trigger bar out. Here's my disassembly donut. Here's that striker, that trigger housing pin, and let me get all this stuff kind of out of the way. And now we are going to take the frame apart, and this is pretty simple. You've got, on the Gen 5, you've got two pins. There's a trigger pin and the trigger housing pin. Remember, we're going to replace that trigger housing pin with a metal one. To remove the trigger housing pin, you can take your 3/32 inch punch and just kind of push that out by hand, because it is pretty simple. So once you get on top of it, just push, and out it goes. The nice thing about this little donut here, this duct tape, is that it captures the pins inside so they don't roll away. The trigger pin, some people have difficulty with, but it is removed. There's really a secret, and the secret is that you want to jiggle the slide stop. So to remove this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little thicker punch, just so I can put a little bit more pressure on it. And sometimes you can do it by hand. Sometimes you need to use a hammer, but I think this gun has been worked a little bit, so I think I can probably do this one by hand. Okay, this little thicker punch. It's not too big. It's not as big as the pin itself. So I'm going to get up on top of it there like that, and I want to jiggle this thing. And I'll do it because I'm right-handed. I'm going to do this with my right hand, and I'm going to jiggle this, and I'm going to get on top of it now with my body too, and it came out just like that. And I got lucky. Okay, sometimes it's not that easy, especially when they're brand new. Okay, you really have to jiggle that, and I'll show you why you have to jiggle it. So it's halfway out. I'm going to go ahead and pull it all the way out now with my finger, drop it into my little donut here. And now I'll take that same punch, and I'm going to remove the locking block. Okay, so I can go get in here and just pry it out a little bit. Boom, and there's the locking block. Okay, here's the trigger housing pin. Here is the trigger pin. And as I pull, the first thing out is the slide stop. Now the Gen 5s are this horseshoe shape because it's ambidextrous. Once you do that, now we can take the entire factory trigger assembly with the trigger housing out, just like that, okay? I've got this, it's all done, right? Okay, so I'm now going to just put it aside, and I'm going to take my new version, and I can drop it straight in, or what we're going to do here is we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to install the competition trigger spring. Now, this is a little bit more difficult, but it is something I do want to show you, because I don't know if I've ever done this on video before, but it's pretty interesting. Inside here is a guide rod, tiny little guide rod. It's a tiny little spring, and it captures this stirrup inside of this trigger housing, and it's anchored out here. Okay, so you'll see this little slot right here, and what we need to do is we need to bring this little piece up and out, and that's what's going to allow us to get access to that spring. So in order to do that, I need to go ahead and press this a little bit. I'm going to try to show you this here. So I'm going to push on the back of this stirrup here, and I'm going to push see that piece coming out? And as I push it out, then I'm going to push my finger up so I can get that thing out of there. And here it comes. Oops. Kind of hard to do it on camera here. And a little bit more. Come on, baby. There we go. There we go. Oops, there it goes. Okay, so I don't know if you saw that, but basically what I did is I pushed this part right here, this little T shape, through the hole. Okay, as I push it through the hole, then I depress the spring like so, and I was able to then push it forward with my finger all the way to the top, and as it came to the top, then it falls out. So that is the spring we're going to replace. That's your trigger return spring. So we've got to take it off of this little stirrup. This is the stirrup we're talking about. And this is where the rod actually, or excuse me, the trigger bar actually runs or is captured in that stirrup like so. Oops, like that. So that's what you see there. Now, to take this off, you'll see that the back here, there's a key basically. So we have to turn this vertically, so it then will release and come out. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just turn and twist it, and out it comes like that. All right, there that is, and here comes the spring. Okay, and there it is. So there's the factory spring. There's your little guide rod, I call it, and the guide rod has a T shape on top, and kind of another dumbbell shape here on the bottom, I guess I can call that. And this is the top end that captures the spring. As you put that spring on there, you turn it, and it'll capture the spring. So let's go ahead and install the spring. Now, here's our competition spring. And the concept behind the competition spring is that it is stronger, has more power than the factory. And the more power actually will return the spring faster, return the trigger faster. And again, the faster the trigger operates, the faster you can shoot. Pretty simple. So to install this spring, there's really no top or bottom to it, right? I'm going to go ahead and just capture it over top of this head and push it all the way down, just like that. Now, I've got it halfway on. So remember, what we have to do is we're going to have to depress the spring and expose that head, and at the same time, capture it onto this piece. So it's going to go like that. Okay, so I have to get it through that hole, and then I have to turn it, because then once I turn it, it's going to capture it on that kind of a key-shaped little hole. It's an oval. So then the two T's will be on the horizontal on that hole. So almost impossible to show you this on camera. I think I did it. I did. All right, there's where we're looking to finish it. You can see how it, like I said, it's on the horizontal. So I stuck the teep in vertically into that slot, kind of compress the spring, and then as I had it compressed through the hole, I turned it and I was able to capture it into the stirrup here. And that's it. Looked a lot easier than it is, I guess, but I had to capture it onto the this little stirrup by pushing this T-shaped here with the vertical, the blade vertical, and then once I got it in, I've got to twist it. Now, there's something else that's really important here. If you look at this little dumbbell-shaped one, the one I call a dumbbell, one side is thicker than the other. One side of the of this guy is thicker than the other. And if you look at this slot right here, one side is thicker than the other. So you got to make sure you have it lined up right, because otherwise it just won't go through the hole. So that said, all right, so I'm going to get these lined up here. And what we're going to see is we're going to start to poke that dumbbell out of the slot. And once it comes out of the slot, then I'm going to drag it down to the captured position. And it's certainly easier said than done, but it's definitely doable. Okay. Here it is. It's out. And now I'm going to drag it down, and I got it. Oh. Okay, so a couple key factors here. One, you got to make sure you have those posts lined up properly. One on the, if I've got the extractor down here, the one on the left is a little bit bigger than the one on the right. Okay. Two, once you push it through, grab it with your finger and drag it down into the locked position. That's pretty crazy how it's designed, but once it's locked, then it's in there and it kind of floats in there by itself, which is pretty cool. Now you take your trigger bar. And again, this is the competition version with the 3.5 pound connector. And you take your trigger bar and we're going to install it. But before I do that, I'm going to take a little bit of oil, which happens to be gun butter today. And I'm going to drop it right here on top of the connector. Okay. A little bit of metal-to-metal contact. Not a lot, just a dab, okay? If it got too much, it's not going to really hurt. It's going to drain itself down. That is the metal-to-metal connection here and there. And now what we want to do is to take the leading edge of that cruciform, right? Capture that stirrup. That sounds good. And get it to the point where it's captured in there. I hope you can see that. You can see the metal-to-metal contact where that oil I put is there. That's going to allow it to have a little less friction. Even though it's an MP3 trigger bar, it does definitely help out. And so that's it. So once you have it in the captured position, you kind of hold it like so, and we're going to go ahead and drop it into the frame. It's pretty simple, but the concept I always like to do is put the trigger in first, get it started, right? Kind of get it there, and then take your trigger housing down. So now we know we're there, and I can go ahead and push all this together, and the frame captures everything in place. And that's a nice little sound, little click there that makes it look pretty good. I can look in here, my holes line up, everything looks good so far, so I'm really good. Now I can start to replace my pins. First pin I want to do is that new metal or steel, stainless steel trigger housing pin. So I'm going to replace the plastic one, and what I'll do is I'll take that plastic one and just drop it right in the same box, bag there. Boom, it's done. So now I know that I've got it still if I ever need it. The pin, I can look in there, the holes line up, everything looks good. So I can just get it started here like so. And once it's all there, tap it into my little hammer. These pins are a little tighter than the plastic by design, okay? So now what's nice about this hammer is it's got this nylon tip on it. I can kind of get on top of it and hammer it a little bit. Now, once I get that far down, I'll bring it up here with my punch and just tap it flush, just like so. So now it's flush on both sides. Doesn't interfere with my grip. Looks good so far. All right, now, next thing will be the slide stop. Remember, it's ambidextrous. It goes right over top of the trigger bar, trigger shoe, should I say. and trigger bar, actually. So it kind of finds its way in there. All right. I can kind of look in those holes again. Everything seems to line up good. Finally is the locking block. Goes right on top. Boom. Now, again, I'm going to look inside those to see the holes are kind of lined up. Every once in a while, you're going to see that the slide stop may be a little out of position, so you can actually kind of push that down a little bit with your hand. You push the trigger down a little bit with your finger, kind of get everything there. If you feel like, oh, they're really not lining up well, get in here with a punch and just kind of pull everything down where it's supposed to be and then hold it down, okay? Because you don't want to be pounding this trigger pin, and you want it to kind of find its way. You almost want to do it by hand. Sometimes when it gets stuck, you can take your hammer and beat on it, but don't beat on it too much because that means you're not really lined up. So I'm going to just make sure I got everything pushed down properly, and hopefully it goes in just like that. So there it is. Now I'll take my nylon tip and just give it a couple more. Now here's something really fun. Every once in a while you'll hear a click, and that click will be, as I true up this pin, that click is going to be the slide stop lever clicking into those notches on that pin. Let's see if we can hear it. There it was. I heard it. And when you heard that click, that was the spring clicking into place in those notches. So there it is. Now I've basically done the full installation. I just now have to put our upper on top. If you're so inclined, you could take a little bit of oil and do a couple dabs on the inside of the rails. You don't have to do too much of anything else. You don't want to oil the safety plunger. You don't want to oil the guide rod. Basically, it's ready to go just like that. And I'm going to go ahead now and install the slide on there. Everything looks good. Oh, trigger feels really good. And it feels lighter. And it's shorter. That's what's even more impressive is the reset is just right there. And it feels really good. I bet you this trigger is going to be about 4, maybe even 3.5 pounds. And the reset is really strong. So we've got, like I said, there's a 3-pound weight here. I'm going to take it off because I know it's not going to be 5 pounds. The base of this dead weight trigger weight is 2 pounds. So that's a 2-pounder right there. I've got a 1 pound and another 1 pound. That's a 4-pound weight right now. Remember, we installed the 4-pound trigger spring, but we also have the 3.5-pound connector. So chances are, like I said, that's going to be really right on. So I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to go to 3.5 pounds. And this is where I think it's going to live, the 3.5 or so. Let's see here. Oh, it's really light. 3.25. Let's go there. Okay, how about 3? Now, if you don't want it to be this light, this is a competition trigger. So get there you go. That's about 3.5. I could probably make it go just like that. But so this is the competition trigger spring. It's between competition trigger, GS fast trigger, and it is the kit that's really designed to allow you to have that super light trigger pull, and it is really light. If you don't want it to be that light, you could actually go to the carry version, which is going to be between 4 and 4.5. This is 3.5, right in that ballpark. It's an amazing trigger. I like the shape of it. I like the size of it, and I like the entire concept. We really have done a nice job here. The fact of the matter is, it's a lighter, crisper, shorter trigger pull. So that's our new fast, GS fast trigger kit, and it's available, like I said, for competition and for concealed carry. And we hope that the video that I've done, shows a complete installation. But I hope you learned something. Certainly, I've learned something. I always do every time I do in and out. And I appreciate you watching. Appreciate you being part of the GlockStore. And we're here in Nashville. If you're ever in Nashville, I invite you to come down and see us because we've got this amazing facility. You can try these triggers. We've got rental guns. Here's one right here that's all set up with one of these triggers in our Shamrock Green with a radium ramjet and a light. And so laser, you can come in and rent these guns and test to see which setup you like. You know, the concept is we've got not lanes, they're shooting rooms that allow you to shoot at multiple targets in multiple directions. You can turn the lights on and off, and you can do all kinds of fun things that you can't do at a normal range. So this is a unique facility, and we invite you to come down and see us. And I want to say once again, thanks for watching. I'm Lenny McGill. I hope to see you next time.